ladies and gentlemen, perfection. It's a word we all secretly chase. We want our work to be flawless, our ideas to be polished, our lives to look perfect to the world. Fascinated. But here's the truth. Perfection is an illusion that stops progress before it even begins. Perfection is often portrayed as the ultimate standard of success, the flawless execution, the seamless performance. Fascinated, the moment when everything aligns perfectly. But in truth, perfection is not a destination, it's a distraction. It convinces us that we must have every detail figured out before taking the first step. And in doing so, it paralyzes us. Fascinated, the desire to make something perfect often prevents us from making anything at all. It's the silent enemy of progress, whispering that you're not ready yet, even when deep down, fascinated, you know that starting is exactly what you need to do. Progress, on the other hand, embraces imperfection. It thrives in the messy, unpredictable reality of trying, failing, learning, and improving. While perfection seeks control, fascinated, progress seeks growth. The difference lies in mindset. Perfectionists chase an illusion of flawlessness. Progress-driven individuals chase improvement. The perfectionist sees a mistake as a failure. The progressive sees it as feedback. Fascinated. And that small difference in perspective determines whether someone moves forward or stays stuck where they are. Think about how innovation happens in the real world. Every major invention, breakthrough, fascinated, or masterpiece began with a rough draft, a prototype, or an imperfect first attempt. Thomas Edison didn't create the light bulb in one flawless try. He found 1,000 ways that didn't work before he discovered the one that did. Fascinated. The Wright brothers didn't soar into the sky on their first flight. They crashed, repaired, and tried again. Progress requires trial and error is where the lessons live. I'm fascinated. Those who strive for perfection often avoid those lessons because they fear the discomfort of failure. But those who embrace progress accept that discomfort is the price of growth. Perfection can also limit creativity. Fascinated. When someone is obsessed with getting everything right, they tend to stick to what's safe. They repeat what has worked before rather than explore what could work better. Progress, however, demands experimentation. Fascinated, it encourages curiosity and resilience. It's about asking, what can I do differently today, rather than what if it's not good enough? The truth is, fascinated, progress values movement, even small steps, over stagnation disguised as preparation. The workplace is one of the clearest mirrors of this truth. Teams that strive for perfection often delay decisions, overanalyze, fascinated, and fear accountability. They want the perfect strategy before they execute. Meanwhile, teams that value progress, iterate, test, learn, and adapt, they understand that the best ideas are not born fully formed. Fascinated, they evolve through collaboration and experience. Leaders who foster a culture of progress inspire innovation because they allow people to make mistakes without punishment. They replace fear with trust, and in that trust, I am fascinated, creativity flourishes. Perfectionism is also deeply tied to ego, the fear of being judged or appearing less competent than others. It's the constant worry about how something will look instead of focusing on what it will become. I'm fascinated. Progress, by contrast, is humble. It acknowledges that always room to improve, and that the only competition worth engaging in is with your own past self. Progress doesn't demand applause, it demands persistence. Fascinated, it doesn't need validation, it needs vision. Choosing progress over perfection doesn't mean lowering your standards or settling for mediocrity. It means understanding that excellence comes from iteration. Fascinated, not from waiting for ideal conditions. It's about striving to get better, not flawless. It's about moving forward even when the path is uncertain. Because the truth is, fascinated, perfection never arrives. There will always be something to tweak, something to refine, something that could have been better. But progress guarantees growth, and growth guarantees learning. When you choose progress, I'm fascinated, you choose evolution over illusion. You choose to live in motion, not in hesitation. And that is where real success begins, not in perfect outcomes, but in the courage to keep moving forward despite imperfection. I'm fascinated. Waiting for the perfect moment is one of the most common ways people delay their dreams. We tell ourselves that we'll start when things calm down, when we have more money, when we've learned a little more. Fascinated. Or when the timing is just right. But here's the harsh reality. There is no perfect moment. Life will always be unpredictable, and conditions will never align exactly as we imagine. I'm fascinated. The pursuit of the perfect time to begin is just another form of fear wearing the mask of logic. The fear of imperfection convinces us to prepare endlessly instead of acting boldly. Yet the truth is, fascinated, readiness doesn't come before action, it's born through it. Growth requires movement, and movement requires courage. The courage to start before you feel ready. Every great achievement begins with a moment of uncertainty. Fascinated, when the Wright brothers decided to build their flying machine, they didn't wait until they had the perfect design. They took off with trial, error, and hope. When entrepreneurs launch businesses, fascinated, they often have more questions than answers. When artists paint their first masterpiece, their hands may shake and their confidence may waver. But all of them share one thing in common: they began. They didn't wait for perfection. They created momentum. That first step, even if clumsy, even if small, was the foundation for everything that followed. Starting before you're ready isn't reckless, it's realistic. Fascinated, the idea that you must have it all figured out before taking action is a myth. Experience the greatest teacher, and no book, course, or plan can replace what you learn by doing. We evolve through action. We refine our ideas as we go. I'm fascinated. When we start, we open the door to feedback, discovery, and real-world learning. Progress doesn't come from theory. It comes from trying, adjusting, and trying again. And in that cycle of action, failure, and growth, I'm fascinated. We begin to see that readiness was never something to wait for. It was something to build. Fear often disguises itself as preparation. We tell ourselves we're waiting to be ready, fascinated, but what we're really waiting for is the disappearance of fear. That day will never come. The fear of failure, rejection, or imperfection is part of being human. The people who succeed aren't the ones who eliminate fear. I'm fascinated, they're the ones who act despite it. They understand that fear is a signal, not a stop sign, but a reminder that they're stepping into growth. Confidence doesn't precede action, it follows it. The more you act, I'm fascinated, the more capable you feel. The more capable you feel, the more confident you become. That's how readiness is built, not in theory, but in motion. Think about a baby learning to walk. Fascinated, they don't wait until they've mastered balance before taking their first step. They wobble, they fall, they cry, and then they try again. Each fall is progress, not failure. That's how growth happens in every area of life. I'm fascinated. The people who make progress are those who dare to take imperfect steps, who accept that failure is part of the journey, and who choose to move forward even when it's uncomfortable. In the professional world, fascinated. This principle applies everywhere. The leader who waits for the perfect plan never leads. The entrepreneur who waits for the perfect idea never builds. The creator who waits for perfect inspiration never creates. Fascinated, the world doesn't reward perfection, it rewards initiative. When you start, you separate yourself from the majority who are still waiting for someday. The act of beginning creates opportunities that didn't exist before. I'm fascinated. It brings clarity, connections, and momentum, all of which are impossible to gain from the sidelines. The truth is, no one ever feels completely ready for the next chapter of their life. Whether it's starting a business, I'm fascinated, beginning a new relationship, or pursuing a dream, readiness comes through experience, not before it. Every step forward, no matter how uncertain, prepares you for the next. You learn by doing, not by waiting. Fascinated. The discomfort of starting is temporary, but the regret of never trying can last a lifetime. So take the leap, even if your hands shake. Take the step, even if you're scared. Fascinated. Because the moment you start, even imperfectly, you've already done what most people never do. You've begun the journey toward progress. Mistakes are often seen as signs of weakness or incompetence, but in truth, fascinated, they are the raw material of mastery. Every person who has ever achieved greatness has stumbled, fallen, and failed countless times before finding their stride. Fascinated. The difference between those who grow and those who quit is not the absence of mistakes, but how they respond to them. Mistakes are not dead ends. They are detours that lead us to understanding, refinement, and eventual excellence. Fascinated. The problem is that society has taught us to fear mistakes, to hide them, to be ashamed of them, to see them as proof that we are not good enough. I'm fascinated. But the most successful people know that each mistake carries a lesson that success alone can never teach. When we aim for perfection, we spend so much energy avoiding mistakes that we forget to take meaningful risks. Fascinated, we avoid challenges, new ideas, and opportunities for growth because we fear the sting of getting it wrong. Yet the irony is that avoiding mistakes also means avoiding learning. Fascinated, every mistake is feedback, a message that tells us what doesn't work so we can find what does. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed." Fascinated, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That mindset transformed what others would call failure into the foundation of innovation. Without those mistakes, there would be no progress, no discovery, no light bulb. Fascinated. Mistakes are the stepping stones of mastery because they expose the gaps in our knowledge and force us to improve. When a musician hits the wrong note, they train their ear to hear more sharply. When a scientist's experiment fails, fascinated, they adjust their hypothesis and try again with greater precision. When a leader makes a poor decision, they learn how to listen better, communicate clearer, and think deeper. Each mistake brings with it the opportunity to evolve. Fascinated, growth demands humility, the willingness to say, I don't know everything yet, but I'm learning. The people who become truly great are not those who avoid mistakes, but those who extract wisdom from every one of them. Fascinated, failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the same process. Every successful athlete, entrepreneur, or artist has failed more times than most people have even tried. Fascinated, the only difference is that they didn't let failure define them. They let it refine them. When we stop fearing mistakes, we start using them as mirrors that reflect what needs to change. Fascinated, this shift in perspective turns obstacles into opportunities and setbacks into setups for future breakthroughs. What holds many people back is not the mistake itself, but the meaning they attach to it. Fascinated, they take a failed attempt as proof that they are not capable, instead of seeing it as evidence that they are trying something new. The road to mastery is never straight or smooth. It's filled with failed attempts, missteps, and moments of doubt. But those who persist, who continue to show up despite imperfection, develop resilience, the unshakable belief that they can rise again. Every time you recover from a mistake, fascinated, you strengthen your ability to handle challenges. You become more adaptable, more self-aware, and more capable of navigating uncertainty. That resilience becomes your greatest asset, one that perfection can never provide. Fascinated, perfectionists often crumble at the first sign of failure because they measure their worth by outcomes instead of effort. But progress-driven individuals understand that mistakes are not verdicts. They are feedback loops. I'm fascinated. They analyze, adjust, and advance. They understand that each stumble is a step forward in disguise. The process of mastery is a dance between failure and improvement, between risk and reward. To avoid mistakes is to avoid mastery itself. Fascinated. So rather than fearing mistakes, we should welcome them. They are proof that we are moving, trying, experimenting, and growing. Every error carries within it a seed of wisdom waiting to be planted. I'm fascinated. The greatest minds in history didn't reach mastery by getting everything right. They reached it by never giving up when things went wrong. The path to mastery isn't about avoiding mistakes. Fascinated. It's about transforming them into momentum. Because each mistake, no matter how painful, brings us one step closer to excellence, one imperfect step at a time. Consistency is often underestimated because it doesn't look exciting. Fascinated, it lacks the glamour of sudden success or the thrill of big breakthroughs. Yet it is the quiet force behind every lasting achievement. People who chase perfection tend to burn bright and fast. They want instant results, fascinated recognition, and flawless outcomes. But progress isn't built on grand moments. It's built on small, deliberate actions repeated over time. The truth is, fascinated, consistency beats intensity because success is not about how hard you work for a day. It's about how long you can stay committed to the process even when the excitement fades. Perfectionists are driven by short bursts of energy. Fascinated, they start with passion and enthusiasm but struggle to maintain it when things get difficult. Their focus on doing everything perfectly often leads to frustration and burnout. Fascinated, when the results don't appear fast enough or mistakes happen, they give up easily. Consistency, on the other hand, understands that growth is a long game. It's about showing up again and again, even when motivation fades. Fascinated, even when progress seems invisible. True mastery is not achieved by doing something once perfectly, but by doing it repeatedly, imperfectly at first, then better each time. Consider how nature works. Fascinated, rivers carve valleys not through power, but through persistence. The flow of water constant and unrelenting, shapes even the hardest stone. That's the essence of consistency. Small actions that over time create massive change. I'm fascinated in any pursuit, whether it's building a business, learning a skill, or improving yourself. It's not the intensity of effort that matters most, it's the regularity of commitment. When you commit to small daily improvements, I'm fascinated, you create momentum. And momentum, once built, becomes unstoppable. Perfection seeks instant validation, while consistency embraces patience. When you aim for perfection, you focus on results. When you choose consistency, fascinated, you focus on routines. The result of a perfect effort might impress others for a moment, but the result of consistent effort transforms your life forever. It's easy to work hard when you feel inspired, fascinated, but consistency asks you to work hard when you don't. It's waking up early even when you're tired, practicing your craft even when you're uninspired, and staying disciplined even when no one is watching. Fascinated, that's where real progress happens. In the unseen hours, the quiet discipline, and the repeated choices that build character. Consistency also builds trust, not only in others, but in yourself. I'm fascinated. When you consistently follow through on your commitments, you prove to yourself that you can be relied upon. That self-trust becomes a foundation of confidence. You no longer depend on fleeting motivation, you depend on your habits. Fascinated, the perfectionist often struggles with self-doubt because their confidence relies on flawless outcomes. The consistent person, however, builds confidence through repetition and perseverance. They learn that even on bad days, fascinated, progress is still being made, even if it's slow or subtle. In leadership, relationships, and personal growth, consistency always outlasts intensity. A leader who shows up consistently, listening, guiding, fascinated, and supporting builds a culture of trust and stability. In relationships, consistent care and effort mean more than grand gestures done once in a while. In personal development, consistent habits, reading, exercising, fascinated, reflecting, shape the person you become. It's the accumulation of these small efforts that leads to transformation. The truth is, progress is not about doing everything perfectly right now. I'm fascinated. It's about doing the right things consistently over time. There will be days when you don't feel like showing up. There will be moments when your effort feels unnoticed or your results seem stagnant. Fascinated. But consistency demands faith. Faith that your effort will pay off even when you can't yet see the reward. Every repetition, every attempt, every quiet moment of discipline compounds into something greater. Fascinated. Those who chase perfection look for the finish line. Those who choose consistency understand that the journey never truly ends. Improvement is infinite, and growth is a daily practice. When you embrace consistency, fascinated, you replace the anxiety of needing to be perfect with the peace of knowing you're progressing. You stop asking, am I there yet? And start saying, I'm getting better every day. And that mindset, steady, patient, fascinated, and persistent, is what turns ordinary effort into extraordinary achievement. In a world that glorifies results and achievements, it's easy to forget that the real magic lies in the process. I'm fascinated. We are conditioned to measure success by outcomes, the promotion, the trophy, the applause. But the truth is, the outcome is just the surface. What shapes us, strengthens us, fascinated, and transforms us happens beneath the surface in the process. In the process, perfection focuses on the end product, while progress finds meaning in the journey. When we learn to celebrate the process rather than obsess over the outcome. Fascinated, we begin to experience true growth and fulfillment. The process is where learning happens. The process is where learning happens. It's where we make mistakes, adapt, and refine our approach. Every small step, every challenge, every failed attempt teaches something valuable. Fascinated. The destination gives us direction, but the journey gives us depth. People who focus only on the end goal often miss the lessons along the way. They rush, they compare, they measure their worth by speed instead of progress. Fascinated, but those who honor the process understand that growth cannot be rushed. It unfolds one step at a time, and every stage, even the difficult ones, plays an important role in shaping who we become. When we celebrate only outcomes, fascinated, we create pressure, we feel anxious about meeting expectations and fear falling short. But when we celebrate progress, when we recognize the effort, discipline, and persistence it takes to move forward, we create motivation. Fascinated, progress becomes addictive when we appreciate the small wins. Each minor improvement fuels the next. And suddenly, the path that once felt long and uncertain becomes a source of pride. Fascinated. The process itself starts to feel rewarding because it's no longer about perfection, it's about momentum. The greatest achievers in any field understand this mindset. Athletes who focus only on winning often crumble under pressure. Fascinated. But those who fall in love with training, practice, and improvement, they thrive. They understand that victory is simply the visible reflection of invisible consistency. Fascinated. Artists who cherish the act of creating produce more meaningful work than those who obsess over applause. Entrepreneurs who enjoy building, experimenting, and failing forward are the ones who innovate. Fascinated. The common thread among all of them is their relationship with the process. They see it as the real prize. Celebrating the process also builds resilience. When you're fixated on results, any setback feels like failure. Fascinated. But when you value the journey, even obstacles become part of your progress. You learn to see rejection as redirection and mistakes as milestones. Every time something doesn't go your way, fascinated, it teaches you something that success never could. Resilience is not born from constant victory. It's born from persistence through imperfection. The process is what trains you to keep moving forward no matter what happens. Fascinated. There's also a sense of gratitude that comes from embracing the process. When you slow down enough to notice your growth, to look back and see how far you've come, you develop appreciation for your own effort. Fascinated. You stop comparing your journey to others because you understand that your path is uniquely yours. Gratitude transforms frustration into patience and pressure into purpose. It reminds you that the small, I'm fascinated, consistent actions you take each day matter more than any single achievement. Perfection makes us impatient. It pushes us to rush through the process, to demand results before we're ready. But progress invites patience. Fascinated. It teaches us that every meaningful change takes time. A seed doesn't become a tree overnight. Growth happens quietly, consistently, and often invisibly before it shows any visible signs. The same is true for personal development. Fascinated. Relationships and success. When we embrace the process, we learn to trust that time and effort will eventually bear fruit. Ultimately, the process is where identity is built. Achievements may define what you've done. Fascinated, but the process defines who you've become. It shapes your mindset, your character, and your resilience. When you celebrate the process, you free yourself from the pressure of perfection. You realize that success isn't a destination at all. It's a continuous journey of becoming better, wiser, and stronger. And when you start to love that journey, every step, even the hard ones, becomes worth celebrating. Fascinated. Progress is not just something we measure in numbers, milestones, or achievements. It is first and foremost a mindset, a way of thinking, learning, and approaching life. Fascinated. Many people believe progress is about reaching a specific goal or crossing a finish line. But in truth, it's about continually striving to become better, wiser, and stronger than you were yesterday. When you view progress as a mindset, I'm fascinated, you shift from a fixed way of thinking to a growth-oriented one. You stop defining success by perfection and start defining it by improvement. You stop fearing mistakes and start valuing lessons. I'm fascinated, this mindset doesn't just change what you achieve, it changes who you become. Perfection is rooted in fear. It demands control, certainty, and flawless execution. Fascinated, it convinces you that only when everything is right will you be worthy of success. But progress is rooted in courage. It's about embracing uncertainty, taking action even when things aren't perfect. Fascinated, and trusting that each step forward matters. The perfectionist asks, is this good enough? The progressive thinker asks, what can I learn from this? That small difference in perspective completely transforms the journey. Fascinated, because while perfection keeps you frozen in hesitation, progress keeps you moving in evolution. When progress becomes your mindset, you stop comparing your journey to others. Fascinated. Comparison is the thief of progress because it shifts your focus from your own growth to someone else's achievements. Everyone's timeline is different, and everyone's challenges are unique. Fascinated. The progressive mindset understands that the only competition that matters is with the person you were yesterday. Improvement becomes personal. Success is no longer about outpacing others, but about outgrowing your former self. Fascinated. This perspective brings peace because it removes the pressure to prove yourself and replaces it with the purpose to improve yourself. In a progress mindset, failure is not an ending, it's information. Fascinated, it's feedback that helps you refine your next move. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to adapt, and every mistake becomes an invitation to grow. When you think this way, fear loses its grip on you. Fascinated, you begin to see setbacks not as signs of defeat, but as natural parts of the journey. People who think in terms of progress don't wait for the perfect conditions to start. They start and let progress create the conditions. Fascinated, they understand that momentum breeds confidence and that action creates clarity. A progress-driven mindset also nurtures gratitude. When you focus only on perfection, fascinated, you tend to overlook how far you've come because you're too busy chasing what's still missing. But when you focus on progress, you learn to appreciate the small wins, the subtle growth. Fascinated, and the invisible improvements that accumulate over time. You become thankful for effort, not just outcomes. This gratitude keeps you grounded, resilient, and motivated even when results are slow to appear. Progress isn't always visible immediately, but it's always happening in your habits, your thoughts, your discipline, and your mindset. In leadership and life, a progress mindset inspires others. When leaders focus on progress, I'm fascinated, they create environments that encourage learning instead of punishment, experimentation instead of perfectionism, and growth instead of fear. People feel safer to take risks, make mistakes, and bring creative ideas forward. Fascinated. This creates innovation, collaboration, and trust. A culture of progress outperforms a culture of perfection every single time because people thrive where growth is celebrated more than flawlessness. I'm fascinated. The most liberating part of adopting a progress mindset is realizing that you never truly arrive, and that's okay. Life is not a race to reach some perfect version of yourself. It's a continuous process of becoming. I'm fascinated. The more you grow, the more you realize there's still room to grow, and that's what makes the journey meaningful. Progress gives life movement, and movement gives life purpose. Every day you learn, adapt, and move forward. Fascinated. Even if just a little, you are already succeeding because you are evolving. Progress as a mindset means waking up each day asking, fascinated, how can I be just a little better than I was yesterday? It means replacing self-criticism with curiosity, replacing fear with faith, and replacing perfection with persistence. When you think this way, fascinated, success stops being a distant dream and becomes a daily practice. You realize that progress is not about reaching the end. It's about never stopping the journey of growth. In life, the pursuit of perfection often paralyzes us. Fascinated, keeping us from taking action, learning from mistakes, and embracing growth. Progress over perfection is about shifting focus from flawless outcomes to continuous improvement, from fear of failure to courage and action. Fascinated, it reminds us that every small step, every lesson learned, and every effort made matters more than waiting for the perfect moment. By valuing consistency, celebrating the journey, and viewing mistakes as opportunities. Fascinated, we cultivate resilience, confidence, and momentum. Progress is a mindset, a commitment to becoming better than we were yesterday, regardless of external validation or comparison. When we prioritize progress over perfection, fascinated, we free ourselves from unrealistic expectations, embrace imperfection, and unlock our potential. Real success is not about never failing. It's about moving forward, learning, and evolving every single day. And I'm fascinated. True growth comes not from being perfect, but from being persistent.